back friends and welcome to Bhai Nirmal, and we were talking about endocrinology, and in this video tutorial I shall describe you about the pancreas and very brief description of the structure of the pancreas and also the hormones secreted from the pancreas, that is the insulin, glucagon, somatostatin and pancreatic polypeptide, and the disorder of the pancreas, that is the diabetes mellitus disease, and why insulin and glucagon is called as the antagonist hormone. Okay, so pancreas is a kind of mixed gland because it actually secretes the digestive enzyme, and this is the exocrine function of the pancreas, and this will also secrete the many of the hormones, that is the insulin, glucagon and somatostatin and pancreatic polypeptide, and these are the endocrine function of the pancreas. And since the pancreas actually perform both the exocrine and the endocrine role, so pancreas is called as the mixed gland. And pancreas is situated at the groove of the duodenum, and if we take a portion of the pancreas, then we can see that there are presence of many of the acini. Okay, and this acini is made up of the acinar cell, and this acinar cell is usually responsible for secretion of various kinds of digestive enzymes which are responsible for digestion of the carbohydrate, protein and lipids. Okay, and inside the acini there are present islets of Langerhans, and in this islets of Langerhans various types of cells are present, that is the beta cell, and the beta cell causes the secretion of the insulin, and alpha cell is responsible for secretion of the glucagon, and delta cell is responsible for secretion of the somatostatin, and gamma cell is responsible for secretion of the gastrin, and the F cell secretes pancreatic polypeptide. So these are 5 major hormones which are secreted from the pancreas or the islets of Langerhans. Okay, the most important hormones secreted from the pancreas are insulin and the glucagon, and insulin and glucagon is usually called as the antagonist because insulin lowers the blood glucose level and glucagon increases the blood glucose level. Okay, here you can see that the normal blood glucose level is 80 to 120 mg per 100 milliliter of the blood, and if the blood glucose level becomes high from this normal range, then insulin hormone will be secreted and glucagon hormone secretion will be inhibited, and so that the blood glucose level becomes in the normal range. Okay, and if this normal range lowers, then glucagon hormone will be secreted and insulin hormone secretion will be inhibited because the glucagon increases the blood glucose level so that the blood glucose level becomes in normal range. Okay, so insulin actually causes the blood glucose level lowering, so insulin actually lowers the blood glucose level and glucagon actually increase the blood glucose level. Okay, I'm going to tell you about the function of the insulin and the glucagon. Actually, insulin absorbs the glucose from the blood into the tissues, and so that in the blood there are presence of glucose, and this glucose enters into the tissues by the action of the insulin, and so that the insulin is called as the anti-diabetic hormone. Next, insulin hormone actually promotes the glycogenesis procedure, and the glycogenesis is the process by which the glucose is transformed into the glycogen in the liver and the muscle, and so that the glucose level will be lowered. Okay, insulin hormone also causes the synthesis of the protein from the amino acid and prevent the breakdown of the protein, and also this will causes the fat synthesis, and since the protein and the fat will be synthesized by the action of the insulin, so insulin is called as the anabolic hormone. So these are the main functions of the insulin. Next, glucagon. Glucagon promotes the glycogenolysis process in liver and the muscle. Glycogenolysis process is just a reverse of the glycogenesis, and by the glycogenolysis process, glycogen will be break down into the glucose, and so that the glucose level will be increased, and so this is the main function of the glucagon. And also this will causes the breakdown of the fat by activating the lipase in the adipose tissues. Lipase enzyme causes the breakdown of the lipid or the fat into the fatty acid and the glycerol, so that the glucagon actually activate the lipase enzyme, so fat will be the breakdown of the fat will be occurred. Next, prevent the accumulation of the triglyceride in the liver. Okay, and this increase the gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is a kind of metabolic process by which the glucose is formed from many of the non-carbohydrate molecule, and so that the glucose level will be increased if the increase of the glycogenesis process is occurred, and this is another important function of the glucagon. And here I shall describe you about that why insulin and the glucagon are called as the antagonist. Insulin hormone lowers the blood glucose level, but glucagon hormone increases the blood glucose level. And insulin hormone promotes the glycolysis, and glucagon inhibits, or this actually inhibits the glycolysis procedure. And insulin hormone promotes the glycogenesis procedure, but glucagon inhibits the glycogenesis procedure. And insulin actually inhibits the glycogenolysis, and glucagon promotes the glycogenolysis. And insulin also inhibits the gluconeogenesis or neoglucogenesis, but glucagon promotes the gluconeogenesis. Okay, so insulin and the glucagon are called as the antagonist hormone. Another two kinds of the hormones are secreted from the pancreas, and here somatostatin is actually called as the inhibitor hormone, because somatostatin inhibits the growth hormone secretion, and from the adenohypophysis growth hormone is secreted. This actually increases our length, but somatostatin inhibits the growth hormone secretion, and also this is the inhibitor of the insulin and the glucagon secretion. Another important function of the somatostatin is that this actually prevents the absorption of the nutrient from the GI tract into the blood. So these are the main function of the somatostatin. And pancreatic polypeptide, which is secreted from the ape cell, this is actually inhibits the release of the pancreatic juice from the pancreas. So these are the main functions of the 5 hormones secreted from the pancreas. Okay. Next, I shall tell you about the diabetes mellitus. In cases of the diabetes mellitus, the blood glucose level will be increased. Okay, and this diabetes mellitus will be of two types. One is insulin dependent and another is insulin independent. In insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, the hyposecretion of the insulin is actually occurred, and if this hyposecretion occurs, then the patient cannot use or store the glucose, and also glucose accumulated in the blood. Since the patient cannot use the glucose, so glucose will be accumulated in the blood and this will be released to the urine, and this is the main symptoms of the insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And also this promotes the fat degradation, so produces the ketone bodies in our body, and these ketone bodies are acetoacetate and acetone, and also this increase the blood cholesterol level, and also this increase the protein breakdown. And since the protein actually this is a main building block in our body, so that the breakdown of the protein causes the weight loss. And another symptoms of the insulin dependent diabetes mellitus is the blood vision, and weak, tired and underweight, and at last in the stage, that is the coma. So these are the symptoms of the insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Insulin hormone acts via cell surface receptor, that is the insulin receptor, and if this receptor becomes defective, then another diabetes mellitus disease will be occurred, and this is called as the insulin independent diabetes mellitus. And in these cases, the normal secretion of the insulin is actually occurred, but insulin cannot function. So diabetes due to the person's inability to use the insulin, so this is called insulin independent diabetes mellitus. And in these cases, failure of the take of the glucose from the blood into the cell or the use, and since the insulin cannot bind with this receptor, so this cell cannot take up the glucose from the blood, and so the blood level automatically will be high, so that the glucose level in the blood will be automatically high, and the cell becomes the glucose starved. And apart from the defective insulin receptor, abnormality of the pancreatic protein amylin also causes the insulin independent diabetes mellitus. And now I shall tell you about the differences in between diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus. And diabetes mellitus is actually the causes by hyposecretion of the insulin from the pancreatic beta cell, but diabetes insipidus disease is actually occurred due to the hyposecretion of the antidiuretic hormone from the hypothalamus or posterior pituitary gland. So the diabetes mellitus is pancreatic, so the diabetes mellitus disease is pancreatic disorder related, and this is the hypothalamic disorder. And in diabetes mellitus disease, the blood sugar level will be very high, and this sugar excreted through the urine. But in cases of the diabetes insipidus disease, the blood sugar level remains normal, but huge amount of the water will be come out from our body through the urine. So this is another important symptoms of the diabetes insipidus. Apart from this, in diabetes mellitus, the blood cholesterol level will be very high, and the ketone bodies secreted through that of the urine, but the cholesterol and the ketone bodies remains normal in cases of diabetes insipidus. So these are the basic differences in between diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus. So in this video tutorial, I shall tell you about the injury of pancreas and why pancreas is called as the mixed gland, and the function of the insulin and the glucagon, and why insulin and the glucagon are called as the antagonist hormone. And apart from these, another two important hormone, that is the somatostatin and the pancreatic polypeptide and their function, and also the diabetes types of the diabetes, that is the insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, insulin independent diabetes mellitus, and also the diabetes insipidus disease. So that's it guys, and if you like my videos, then you can subscribe my channel Bengalibioni for more updates. Thank you. That's it.